Alright, so I think it's to the point where we're going to go tear it down. We already had it running, had shooting fire out and all that kind of happy stuff. And it should be a viable candidate. That was smooth, huh? The front main seals, piston out some oil. Plan on changing that anyway. We got to tear into all that. All the tins got to come off, get painted, clean whatever nests are in out of it. Get some decent heater boxes on it. Get some decent valve covers on it. All the gaskets, you know. See if the generator's any good. Those kind of things. So I am going to start disassembling the carcass of this thing and getting it down to an area we can start cleaning stuff and getting it ready for paint. For the sake of speeding things up a little bit, I'm not going to show everything getting tore apart. I'm going to go over a couple of things. I'm going to show you what I'm going to take apart, do it, kind of bring you back. All right, first thing I'm going to try to do is get the fan shroud up out of our way. So you stick a screwdriver in the back of the pulley, you turn the pulley till it locks. There's a bolt, just 2 bolts that go through, so it'll rock until it hits that bolt. You can use that to stop it. Take the nut off, take the belts off. There is a 13 mil right here. That strap isn't on there, right? You loosen that off. That is strapping it to that stand right there. So I'm going to loosen that up and slide that back. You don't have to take it off, just slide it back. It's going to have 2 screws in it, one there and one there to take off. And then underneath, I got to turn it on an angle to get to it. There is a thermostat, which looks like it's no good. Right down in there, that needs to be disconnected because there's a rod that goes through the tin. It works a bunch of flippers, so you got to take that off too. Comes up and operates these valves that I'll show you once I get it apart. So I decided I want to take a thermostat off. I'm just going to get this heater box out of the way first because it just makes it easier. You don't have to. It's got an access plate that comes off right there, but I can get it off and out of the way anyway. And while I was going to go do that, I wanted to show you where those studs right there, if you look at that, you put a wrench on that, that is not coming off and you are going to break it, I promise you. So I want to show you a way that I use. I've been using it for 36 years, I believe so, since I was 16. For taking them off, I was showed a long time ago, and I will show you how I get them off without breaking them, without putting heat on them, without, you know, soaking them down with a bunch of crap. Well, hopefully you can see and that the focus does not get all kind of screwy, because as I put something closer to you, it's going to want to try to focus on, you know, like on the top of that. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a chisel, nice sharp edge on it, and I'm going to drive the chisel in almost straight into the nut. And kind of, it's going to be like that angle. And I'm just trying to split the nut, and then as I kind of get going a little bit, I'm going to angle it a little bit. So I'm going to kind of chisel the nut into there, into the nut, and then the nut's going to kind of peel away. It's going to kind of pop away. When it pops away, this inner circle gets larger, so that it has room between the threads, and then it'll just come right off. Once you get that out of the way, you can just come back with a thread chaser, clean up the threads, and go on. A lot of times there's not much left. It corrodes itself down pretty good. Let's go give her. See it? Kind of tapped in it a little bit too far, so I'm trying to do it not over the top of it so that you guys can see, but I just want to show you what that end result will be. There's the nut. Cut and split open like I talked about, and then I'm just going to come back with a chaser later on when the muffler's off to do the rest of it. So I'm going to do the same to the top, and there's the same thing done to the top. Literally took like 2 hits and it's off. And one other thing about that I just want to say is you have to do it before you try putting a wrench on. You put a wrench on it and you maybe get it like a thread or two. You get the kind of crack loose, but then it feels like it's starting to spin. And it's got a chaser stuck on it. Gotta cut that off. You want it so that the nut is all the way up and against it, because you get a good solid hit. Once you back the nut off and it binds on you, and this is kind of like a diving board where it's moving up and down, forget it. When you go to hit it, the stud's just going to take the energy and it's going to bounce. You're not going to be able to chisel through it, and there's a good chance you'll break the stud at that point. Crack that loose. What is it? Yeah, I just tapped on the chisel, took what was left of those threads off of there. And that is one crunchy heater box. One dirty engine too. Alright. Although it's super dirty in there. That is the thermostat. Hot air blows down from the fan that was up above, is up above. Air sucks in through there. Fan blows. Pushes it over the tins to cool the engine off. There was flappers inside here that when the engine is cold, it shuts them off, so the air is not flowing through here, and it flows out through these and would make heat through the heater box. I just took off. Where'd it go? Heater box. There would be a hose that goes here through the outside of the heater box and out through the car. And then as it warms up, you don't need the heat really. It's probably a warmer time of year. The thermostat stays opens those fins. Not so much air kind of flows through. A lot does still go through it. They have their own on and off switch too. But anyway, thermostat opens and closes those fins. I am going to go take that 13 millimeter off, and it's held on with a bracket too with that 13 millimeter. And then this will be free from the socket. You can just like unspin it. There's a thread up in the top of it. Just because this one's so rusty. Normally it'll just slide right back. Stuck. There's the rod that gets you. Look what we got. This is why you take it apart to clean it. This is an air-cooled engine. And if you just slap that together, that might be an issue. It's definitely going to cause some overheating problems. Yeah, that's why we're working our way down. All right, I'm gonna probably grab the heater box out the other side with the intake manifold to come off the rear tin. See if the oil cooler was leaking. We're gonna put new seals on it anyway. It might have been. It's kind of wet in this area. I hope the case is not corroded through. We're gonna find out. That would suck. Any other heater box is taken off. So the next thing we're going to get into is going to be the intake manifold. You got two there. We already kind of blew out somewhat. And these two definitely are going to need some irrigation to kind of get to them and shoot a little bit of oil in there. So I'm going to take my time, see if we get that up out of our way. Once that is out of our way, we get rid of the generator stand, and we're going to get these tins off. That'll get us down to the cylinder heads. Let's see if we wiggle that out of there. There we go. Somebody did some... No, just crap. Looks like somebody had goobered up something. Sometimes they have a tendency to leak. Nope, just dirty. Hopefully this passage is clear. I'll talk more about that later. So I'm trying to get the tin off, and there's two screws next to the intake that go into the aluminum cylinder head, and you can imagine how nice and corroded the aluminum and the steel kind of do to each other. So put a regular screwdriver on it. You're not going to get it. You can put vice grips on it at an angle and try to get them. More than likely you're probably going to snap it or just round the head off, because it needs like a sudden hit. So this is an impact driver. A lot of you guys are familiar, some of you aren't. An impact driver. It's a screwdriver you hit in the back with a hammer, and it's got like a forward and reverse on it. But when it drives in and turns at the same time. So it holds it from trying to pop up out of the screw because it's taking the hit. At the same time it's taking the hit, it's giving a light twist to it. Show you. Watch it not work now. Oh, I sold it, right? You can see I can't even turn the screw right now like a regular screwdriver, but if you hit it, then eventually it'll turn. Just keep an eye out. Make sure that you're staying in the center of it, because if you start sliding off, you'll strip out the one end of it. It's good for Phillips screws too. But we're in. And once you got it apart, you clean them up and you can see the corrosion that shows up. That aluminum powdery stuff that comes out. Yeah. We win. Yeah, let's go get this tin off. See what critters are living on this side. Not too bad. I think it's pretty much plugged. Not as bad as the other side. Leave it at that. What do you think surprises are going to be under this one? I think this one's our jackpot. Alright. Definitely dirtier than the other side, but I do not see any sign of mouse snaps, which is good. Just crud. Crud. And next thing we're going to knock out 4 nuts off the top of the generator stand and 2 nuts on the fuel pump. Get those out of there. The distributor I might leave in there for a little bit. Not sure. Get them off of there. Yeah, man. There you go. That's also the oil fill and a breather. Dumps oil out the bottom end. It's good. Fuel pump is free. I would say I definitely need to bring this over to the door and blow off all the crap that's on it as much as we can. And then we'll probably take the valve covers off. I would like to see if the cylinder heads will take a torque. So I got it blown off. A better look at what we have. This side looks pretty decent. Kind of what you would expect for where it was sitting and how long it was sitting. But the issue comes on this side. And what that issue is, I'm going to guess that maybe a battery was stored above it and it leaked down onto it, or battery acid or something along that line. And if you see this whole area, it's gotten a lot of corrosion, all this. And if you were to tear this engine down, take the cylinders off, you're never going to get the seal back. I have a feeling this part of the case is so far gone that it's, you know, this is probably its last run. Once the cylinders start breaking down where you would have to replace them, I would go with a different engine. So I would not put the energy into this one, just because also, you know, the fact that it's a 1500 single port. I would rather do a dual port or 1600. So if this came apart, it will never go back together again. It's going to fail. This stud will probably fail. There's a tendency for the head studs to pull out of the block. They take the threads with them. This being compromised all through here, it's probably lost, I don't know, 2 or 3 threads worth of depth that is corroded around there. And I'm sure if I pick at that, that'll go in much further than what it is. Same thing with this here. I'm going to pretty much leave well enough alone. I'll blow it out with some air, clean it, and, you know, maybe put some oil or something on it. But we're just going to leave well enough alone. And I was going to retorque the heads. I'm going to pop the valve covers off. We may, I may do it and just not do these two, because I have a feeling if I try to do anything with this, it's going to pull the stud in the case and cause damage, and, you know, that'll be the death of it. So I shall think about it. And another thing that tells you a story about the life of the engine is, what does it look like inside the valve covers? Is there all crap in there, which I have a feeling is probably going to be, or is it clean? Because the oil's dirty, that's why I say that. Yeah, it's dirty. The oil wasn't changed that much in it, but it's not terrible. I've definitely seen much worse than that. I was actually expecting to see much worse than that. Let's see. Yeah, they're just kind of gooey a little bit. I think that'll wash off. Yeah, the other side off. We'll be pulling the whole strainer out, but I'm just going to take the center nut off for now, just to get most of the oil out. Look at it go. I have to poke that one with a stick. You know, it's got oil in it. Well, you have to take that strainer off. Alright. Or how about we just twist the engine up on its side and let it come out cylinder head. Let's go give it a click that way. There we go. One way to get the oil out. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sludgy. Yeah. So I'm going to spend the next bit of time just taking time to pick out all the big chunks, scrape all the crap off of it, and then I can kind of come back with some cleaning solution. Try to rinse it the rest of the way, but gotta get all the heavy stuff off first. I'm done picking as far as I want to. I'm sure there's other areas I can probably do, but I decided to let some chemicals work. This is just mineral spirits in a spray bottle. I'm going to go around and just kind of give her, so you get a little bit of a fan pattern going here. Maybe not. Yeah. So I'm just going to go give everything a good soaking and probably start coming back with like a wire brush or something and trying to loosen it up. A little bristle brush. You get the idea. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we got it cleaned up enough that we can work with it. Kind of scratched away at that. Looks pretty solid underneath there. Seems like that's what it gets down to, and that's it. Come to think of it, it might have been a bag of lime that was up above it. It was kind of, you know, maybe some of the, like a potting shed or something, and that might be what corroded it. Because you still can kind of see something back in here, you know, more than battery acid. That's probably what it was. Is I'm gonna go with lime. Lime and aluminum do not play very well together. No. They'll leave well enough alone. So I want to go and retorque the cylinder heads the best we can. I think what we're going to do is on these, we're going to be gingerly about them. We'll put the torque wrench on them and we'll watch. If that stud starts to go turn, we're just stopping. But we want to see. On a VW, air-cooled VW, there is no head gasket between the cylinder and the head. And the head's much softer. It kind of conforms into the cylinder head. The cylinder head has like a 1/4-inch ridge going around the top that butts up against that. Well, over time and over cycling, the temperature makes it so that the head is not quite against the cylinder as tight as it needs to be, and you can get what's called blow-by, which is essentially like a blown head gasket, but without one. The compression, when it fires, kind of shoots out of the side here. So we want to go and see if we can clean that up. Light's flashing on my battery, and see if we can get anything better out of it. I don't know if it has blow-by or not, but while we have it apart, when we have the tins off, we can get to these top bolts. Normally you can only get to the bottom 4 when on the car. So I'm gonna get the rocker shafts out of the way, and that'll give us access to those nuts. These nuts. So you're torquing the cylinder head down. Normally you would go from these two to these two and then to the outer banks. Draw it in. You would bring it up at 2 different levels. The torque is 23. And it should already be up towards that. I'm going to use no extension so it doesn't affect the torque. Let's see if we get anything out of the... We are. Get some out of that one. We're going to watch this one like a hawk if that stud starts turning or not. Good. I got a hair turn out of it. Was it this one? There we go. So they're taking quite a bit. And again, it's just like trying to maintain a... Sometimes you go and do it and the stud keeps turning and turning. All right, let's go watch this one. All right, I'll leave that one alone. I'm gonna go over them once real quick. They all did take some, which is nice because it can help the actually doesn't really matter on these, on the compression. We'll do the same on the other side. Alright, let's go. This side I'm not that concerned about, it's not the corrosion. Did I get this one? Guess not. Alright, real quick. The top ones can be somewhat skewed because they're rusty, but I don't want to take them apart and put them back together again. I don't want to disturb too much on what's going on in there. So it took a good torque all the way around. All of them took a little bit, which is nice. Kind of squeezes things back together while we're in there. Helps with this longevity, if I put it that way. I'm going to take my rocker assemblies and push rods, kind of clean them up a little bit. And we're going to probably should clean this area up too while it's apart. And we're going to put the valves back on, adjust the valves. I think I have some diesel or kerosene. We're going to put that in the crankcase. We're not going to start it, but I wanted to flush around the stuff on the inside of it when we're doing another compression test. We'll see if it gets any better. Let's put the strainer back in. We got to show it for a second now that it's clean. So the oil pickup tube comes down through the center of it. And it's gathered from all the way around. Then the sediment kind of goes to the center. Sometimes they put a magnet in the center of the plug too. But that's pretty much all it does. They don't really run a filter. They are pretty much a stickler on changing oil though, every 3,000. Not like the modern cars now, right? And so it's valve adjustment too. Valve adjustment is supposed to be done pretty much every oil change, or at least every other oil change. We're gonna put all that, screw it back together, flip it back on its shinier side. Alright. We're going to go put some thinner fluid in the crankcase. Just so it'll help break up some of the sludge that's on the bottom. We're going with some. It's either kerosene or home heating oil. I think it's diesel, home heating oil. So we're going to let that kind of splash around in the bottom of it. And I'm going to throw a little bit of gasoline in there too. There's no spark or anything. Again, I just want to, I'm trying to clean the bottom surfaces of sludge. So while we're spinning it around to do the compression test, I want that in there just to help break up the sludge, and then tomorrow I'll drain it out again. Right, and get the plugs out of it, and I want to spin it. I still need to adjust the valves, but I want to spin it some so that all the valves kind of settle themselves. Hopefully this should work. There we go. I'm gonna run it for a bit. I want to see if we can get some oil dripping out of the rockers, and get that cleaning material through the whole thing. That should be good. I'm gonna go and adjust the valves. The reason why I left the distributor in it is so I can tell where it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just point the rotor at what cylinder I am working on to adjust the valves at that time. So that keeps the shit out of it too. Good. Alright, so that rotor's facing at number 1 cylinder. And again, we just bolted everything together. That one doesn't feel bad. The two of those actually feel quite good, which is weird because I took a torque on the head. Let's go see what number 2 looks like. I expected them to be way out. ready for this one. Too tight, too loose. What's to say? I think I was gonna get that lucky. So I'm just gonna crack the nuts loose. Hang the wrench on the screwdriver. It's way too tight. After it runs a bit too, I would probably come back and do them all over again. Just feeling for drag. I'm doing 6, some guys do 4. If I find that the motor is noisy later, I'll knock it down to 4. But if not, it gives you that extra layer of protection, because usually what happens is the valves will tighten up over time. They tighten up, then they start to burn a valve, and then you're done. Well, you're not done, but you need a motor. What do you think? See any improvement? I think we'll get some. I hope we'll get some. Let's go see. No. That is number 1. I want to call that 95. It went down 5. The other thing too is it doesn't have oil in the crankcase. Yeah, the oil is much thinner, so it doesn't help seal the rings, but that's okay. I want it to clean all up inside there and break up whatever crap is in there and rinse that out, and then get some oil, real oil in it. Come on, get in there. Almost dropped it. Let's see what we get. I'm still gonna call that 90. I'll go check the other two. Let's go see what number 3 has. 95-ish. And we had, what did we have? We had 90 before. Probably the same. I think this was the worst one. This one was 80. Hopefully this one comes up. Nice, got 100 on that one. So that puts us all in the same playing field, fairly even going across the board. We have a total of 10 pounds between the highest and the lowest. 90. 90's the lowest. We got number 3 was what? What did we say? 90? I forget. 90 or 95. And the 80 came up to 100 on number 4. So that's good. We are all fairly even across the board. It's got some miles on it, but it can run for a long time too. It can have another 50,000 miles in it. They're not really high compression engines. When you start getting down around 80, it's time. The thing's gotten real tired. Again, I think if this thing runs for about 20 minutes, let everything kind of cycle at the valves, really seat nice and well and everything, polish itself back up, I have a feeling that number is going to come up probably about 10 apiece. We may check that later. But for me, tonight, I'm done. I'm wrapping it up. I am going to go inside and eat and relax and watch a video or two. And I'll pick back up probably again tomorrow. Again, I want that stuff to kind of wash through the internals of it and clean some of the gunk out over the nighttime. All right, guys, with that, I will see you in the next one. Catch you later. Bye. All right, so we want to put, first, ground the housing. I don't know how good of a ground that's going to be due to the corrosion. I have to go hit it with a grinder. So we're going to put ground on the DF post, and this is 12 volts hot. You don't want to do it for long. So there you go. Should be able to disconnect that and spin slower. Yeah, that's a good one, just so corroded. We're going to go check that other one out. The other one works, we'll go with that. If not, we'll come back and clean this one up.